something a little different than our normal press conference. We have our officers here, and I'm Sherry Vise, the director of MML, but we have our officers here. They're going to talk with you about some of the critical issues that we have on our agenda during the session. And we're going to start with our president, Mayor Billy Hughes.
Well, good morning and Happy New Year to everybody. It's great to be at the state capitol with the new legislature and the newly elected state officials. We've already had pledges of support. They're going to give us everything we asked for this year. Actually, we're very grateful for the fact that we were listened to last year and last term, and we've got forged a fantastic working relationship with our legislative partners in the passage of the debt set-off bill. But this year, we're talking about home rule. And this year's theme is hit a home run for home rule. And it's about government being at the local level. You know, all politics are local. And in this legislative, in this Capitol, one thing I learned is that it's often referred to as a laboratory of democracy. And what I think that means is that when there are problems or issues or concerns and we need to change them through the law, we bring them to the state Capitol for that laboratory, where there are a lot of it's theoretical. It's practical too, but the real practicality occurs when we have to implement those new laws at home, at the municipal level, where that rubber meets the road, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and we have to retool. One concern we have is the same one that the legislature has, is on the federal level, we sometimes get federal mandates. Often they're unfunded. And some of our officers are going to talk about the aspect of unfunded mandates. But that same concern applies at the local level when we have a tendency to have things that overrun us, where we're dealing with things every single day with our constituents, trying to adjust and respond, not just 90 days at a time. And so we are probably the best clearinghouse or source of information for our legislators to understand what is impacting the local level. And so the concern that we're trying to voice today is that we don't want to be overrun by state regulations when we're dealing with it on the local level. And that's where home rule comes into play. The legislature saw fit in 1985, some of us can remember that far back, to put into play the home rule authority. So it's not something we're just coming up with, it's something that was recognized as being very important to this state and certainly for the municipal levels. Home rule allows a city or a town to regulate its own affairs. That means my time's up. We as municipal officials, we're the government closest to the people. We live where we lead. We hear from our citizens on a daily basis. We see them at church, the grocery store, sporting events, or when they come to City Hall to attend our meetings. We know that our citizens, we know what they want and need just like you do, but it's our job to help convey that. Home rule has increased our municipal authority by providing us the right to adopt any ordinance as long as they don't conflict with state law. We're very cognizant of that. So we respectfully ask the Mississippi legislature to help us to protect home rule so that we can govern effectively for our citizens collectively. Thank you. Let's hear it. Next up is Eric Simmons, our first vice president.
Let's give our president Billy Hughes a round of applause. Home rule! Home rule! First, we would like to thank all of our new legislators and senators who are taking that oath of office to represent their various districts, but also here, the great state of Mississippi. We appreciate your willingness to serve the citizens in your district and here in Mississippi. We know you have some hard work to do. You're getting the grounds, you're hitting the ground running right here at our state capitol, and many tough decisions to make during the next 4 months. That being said, I want to remind all members of the legislature to refrain from supporting bills that create unfunded mandates on cities and towns. An unfunded mandate, our president just said it, is a law passed that requires cities and towns to implement programs that require the city to spend additional revenue, but does not provide that new source of revenue. The legislature has been good to municipalities over the last 4 years, and we look forward to that good working relationship with this new government. These mandates always come in, and our citizens have to get the heavy burden, and it really falls down when we know who it hits hard: the elderly, the poor, and the disabled in our communities. So we do not need unfunded mandates. but sometimes unfunded mandate is an unintended consequence of bills. So we have good folks with our MML staff, our lobbying staff, Sherry and Trey, and so we'll be looking for those bills and making sure that those unintended consequences don't hit our folks. And so if you need any help with a bill, any legislature, any representative, any senator that may need help in looking at a bill, come to our MML staff, Sherry and Trey, to make sure that we do not have unfunded mandates this term, next session, and the next 4 years. Home rule! No unfunded mandates! Thank you all so much for your time. Next we'll have the second Vice President, Mayor of Greenwood, Carolyn McAdams.
Good morning, and again, home rule! Home rule! We as municipal leaders in Mississippi work tirelessly every day to address the critical issues that matter to the citizens who elected us. We have seen a disturbing trend over the last several legislative sessions of bills being introduced that would create blanket policies and preempt local authority. Preemption, by definition, is use of state law to nullify a municipal ordinance or authority. Many of these preemption bills are templates being distributed by special interest groups from outside our state of Mississippi. Many times they are a solution in search of a problem, because no municipality in the state is even considering passing such regulations. We as municipal leaders are not interested in over-regulating any industry, but sometimes the issues are more complex at the local level, and municipal leaders must consider all aspects of the issue. The bottom line is that any preemption of local authority inroads home rules. Before you sign onto a bill that is preemptive in nature, check with the municipal officials that represent you. More likely, you will find that those leaders are open to working through the issues rather than seeing a blanket preemption of their authority. We were elected to govern at the local level. Let us make the decisions based on the needs and desires of our citizens. We know what those needs and desires are better than anyone. Thank you so much. Again, home rule. Home rule.
Good morning. The MML has about 4 things on their agenda for this session. One of them is a referendum on how we're going to fund the First Responders Act. That is, it was passed last session, and not sure that how we're going to fund that. It could really affect a lot of people, especially the smaller municipalities. But we're going to be looking for a way to fund that, so it won't be mandated back on all the towns and municipalities across the state. It's not that we don't respect and have all the respect for our first responders who protect our citizens, keep us safe, take care of their families. We're in support of our first responders. We just got to figure out how we're going to fund that in the future. The second thing that we have is a local option sales tax, which will give cities and towns the authority to have a referendum to add an extra 1 cent of sales tax to pay for capital improvements on projects only. It must get a 60% approval, and the tax ends when the projects are over. The third thing is small municipalities grant program. We're going to be asking for $10 million to fund this program. That affects 85% of our municipalities across the state. This is very competitive grant money, but it helps us with infrastructure and improvements for each town. The fourth thing is level or full funding for homestead exemption and reimbursement. But we've got a lot on our plate. We need to work with our senators and our legislators, and the MML has been meeting with them, and I think we're going to get a lot of this done. Thank you.
All right, I just want to reiterate about home rule and the need for us to collaborate and communicate Proud to be here with hundreds of our municipal leaders from throughout the state. We're in Jackson for this week, and we'll be back and forth, so we're at your disposal. We're proud to have the opportunity to serve, and we appreciate you listening to our message. God bless. We're done.